The story of Kaido is one that is full of mystery and a lot of things that we truly don't have answers to. In the Wano arc, one of the biggest things that people have been asking for is something that we usually get in One Piece, and that's a flashback. A flashback for the main antagonist of this arc, Kaido, the King of the Beast. Now, in a perfect world, I hope that Oda does allow us to have a Kaido backstory in which we can understand what motivated him and what changed him. But just in case Oda doesn't give us this flashback, I want to try my hand at making a little theory on what I feel like is the timeline in which Kaido changed from being this optimistic person who thought he could possibly be Joy Boy into who I deem him to be now. Someone bent on chaos and creating the greatest war that the world has ever seen. This is my take on Kaido and his origin. There are different pieces of information that I want to hit on in this theory. One is the perception that us as viewers have that I've seen on different social media platforms, in my YouTube comments, and just in the community in general talking to other creators. These perceptions are what we would normally hear when people bring up Kaido, his backstory, and who he is as a pirate. The reason why I want to look at the community perception of Kaido specifically is because mine is a bit different, and I want to be able to compare and contrast fairly so people know that I'm being impartial when I give you my opinion. After that, I want to look specifically at a few instances of evidence that I feel like fit into why Kaido is who he is, who he used to be, and how he's changed. And lastly, I will give you speculation based on evidence that I provided on how he's changed that could give you some sort of indication on what Kaido's backstory could be, just in case we don't get one. And hopefully we'll be able to use this information to dig into his character a little deeper and find out the truth behind the King of the Beast. The community looks at Kaido as someone who has always been a vile villain and someone that doesn't have a ton of depth to him. It hasn't been until recently that people have started to come around and started to understand that Kaido has a little bit more character than what we give him credit for. I believe the reason for that is just simple. We're now in Wano and we're at the ending parts of Wano, so Oda has been saving Kaido's character moments for the climax of the arc. And because it's taken so long for us to get these character moments for Kaido, people have just deemed him to be one-dimensional or someone that isn't that deep. Of course, these are just the perceptions from people that I have saw, but some of the biggest things I see amongst these opinions that he doesn't have much character is that Kaido is like this because he is just evil inherently, and that he doesn't have any type of redeemable qualities. Well, that has honestly changed. With chapter 1035 and 1036, we have gotten some pieces of information that I've talked about before that has changed my perception of Kaido completely. There's a conversation in chapter 1035 between King and Kaido in which they are at a Vegapunk research facility. Now, at this facility, Kaido and King are interacting with each other as they are making their escape, and they're destroying the research facility as they're talking to each other. Kaido, of course, asks for King's name and he tells them, and he asks for Kaido's name, and of course Kaido tells him as well. After this small exchange, they continue to talk and he says, "Hey kid, you seem strong." Of course talking to King, and he says, "Do you want to travel with me?" And King responds by saying, "Can you change the world?" In which Kaido says, "I'm the only one who can." And at that point, he becomes the right hand of the Beast Pirates and they leave together. And ever since then, they've been together. This piece of information is very important, but it wasn't until chapter 1036 that it was solidified for me. I had a feeling after 1035, and you can see this based on other videos that I've made, that Kaido felt like he could possibly be Joy Boy. Of course, it was speculation until it was confirmed the next chapter. However, I had a high feeling that that was the case and that he had failed over time because he seemed optimistic in this time that he was talking to King. And in chapter 1036, there's another small flashback in which Kaido says, "King, do you still feel like I could be Joy Boy? That I could still change the world?" And at this point, I feel like King knows that Kaido can't be Joy Boy, or he feels he isn't. And he says, "Just continue to be the strongest pirate." And I'll repeat it again. Continue to be the strongest pirate, and I will make you king of the pirates. So at this point, this is indicating to us that King feels like this Joy Boy situation is done. That Kaido isn't Joy Boy. Yet, he believes in Kaido as his captain and he says, just continue to be the strongest and you can still be the king. And we see this through the interaction that King has with Zoro. They correlate with each other. There's parallels between Zoro and Luffy and Kaido and King, and we see this in 1036. We see the flashback in which Zoro has this moment where he tells him he wants to be the world's strongest swordsman, and he says that he will never lose another battle. This is very much like the conversation that King had with Kaido. He's like, just continue to be strong and you can still be king of the pirates. Their relationships are very similar. And I think Oda was trying to show us that through this dynamic in this conversation. Why is this Joy Boy conversation so important, you may be asking? Well, let's move on to the next part of this theory. Kaido's motivation. I do believe that from the conversation that he had with King, that Kaido wanted to be Joy Boy. He wanted to find out who Joy Boy was and how he could become this. It makes a ton of sense if you look at how optimistic Kaido was and how pessimistic he is now. He went from being someone who felt like they could change the world, someone who could be Joy Boy, to someone that tried to kill themselves at the balloon terminal, to someone who didn't kill themselves and then immediately woke up and said, everyone get ready, I'm about to create the biggest war in the world. Someone who allied themselves with Big Mom to get the One Piece. And we know why he's getting the One Piece, right? From the speech at Marineford that Whitebeard had, finding the One Piece will create a huge war. Kaido has this information. You know how Kaido has this information? Because Whitebeard has this information. And what does Kaido and Whitebeard have in common? They are both parts of the Rock's pirates. A huge part of Kaido's motivations will be a huge part of all of the Rock's pirates' motivations. Because one thing that they all had in common was they shared the same crew and they were led by none other than Rox D. Zebek. What does Rox D. Zebek have? He has information on the history of the world. He has a lot of information. Everyone was asking, how does Kaido know about Joy Boy? When he said it in the chapter when he was talking to Luffy, he says, it seems that you couldn't be Joy Boy either. Again, alluding to Kaido trying to be Joy Boy and failing. He's saying it as if he tried to be Joy Boy and he couldn't. But where could he have gotten this information on Joy Boy from? Where everyone else got their information and motivations. Their captain. He was the apprentice on the Rock's ship. And due to him being the apprentice to Zebek, him and Zebek probably had a very close relationship. A lot of people will think that Jack may be the apprentice to Kaido's crew. Now, it's not confirmed, but they think because Jack has been there since he's been a kid that it makes sense for him to be the apprentice. Kaido and Jack are extremely close. He kind of treats Jack like someone he cares for, like a son. When Jack gets defeated on top of the roof by the Sulong Dukes, Kaido is very caring. He talks to him like he cares for him. Says, Jack, you tried your best. It's not that you're weak, they're just too strong. We see Kaido treating his crew with care. Where would he have learned this from? And why do people feel like Kaido's inherently bad or any other antagonist is inherently evil when we've seen otherwise? I truly believe a lot of times we get jaded by the main characters, Straw Hat Luffy and the Straw Hats. And because they're the main characters going against these antagonists and they are their opposition, we only seem to care about the motivations and ambitions of the good guys. But from this conversation with King, and even in Whole Cake Island, when you see the Big Mom pirates and how she interacts with them, we know that these other pirate captains and their crews have their own motivations. They are their own people. They aren't inherently evil. They're doing a lot of the same things that Luffy is doing. It's just a negative light is shined on them because they're opposing Luffy, the main character, his crew, and the people that we have fallen in love with over the years. I wanted to bring up Jack's relationship with Kaido and Kaido not being inherently evil because I don't believe that Rox D. Zebek was either. There's a possibility that Rox D. Zebek was someone that was a pioneer, someone to look up to. Maybe he was someone who could have been Joy Boy, or maybe he was someone who was searching for Joy Boy. Maybe that's where Kaido got this information from and why he looks up to Zebek so much. Maybe Zebek was a light that shined on Kaido and the rest of the crew, someone that they could look up to. If you think about it, Big Mom wants a utopia where everyone can live in peace and harmony. Whitebeard wanted a family and to love them. Kaido was very optimistic as well until he changed. Why would any of these people that have positive mindsets want to follow someone that's just an evil person inherently? Can you actually see Whitebeard following someone that's just not a good person? In my mind, I can't see it. It just doesn't fit into his character, which is why I believe Kaido may have been someone who had positive motivations. He wanted to change the world. He told King that he was the only one that could. This is what led to him wanting to be Joy Boy. I wanted to bring up this information and lead to the conclusion that I believe Kaido wanted to be Joy Boy because based on the conversations that he's had, that's what makes the most sense. Now that we've talked about Kaido's motivation, his ambition, where he learned it from, I want to talk directly about Kaido and what may have happened, what changed, and why he's acting the way he is with Luffy now. Because at some point, no matter how much optimism that Kaido had, he failed. At some points he failed to be Joy Boy, or he learned that he couldn't be Joy Boy. Now there are a few things that could have led to this. One of them is one of the 7 losses the narrator brings up when we first meet Kaido. It says that he's captured something like 18 times and he's defeated 7 times. One of those defeats could have been not only a physical defeat, but maybe a mental defeat. Maybe a defeat that made Kaido's mindset change. When Kaido was discussing with Luffy about people who have hurt him, we see a silhouette. We see great people behind Luffy. We see Whitebeard, Roger, Zebek, Odin, Shanks. All of these people who could have possibly hurt Kaido at some point. Maybe these are some of the people he has lost to. Maybe these are some of the people he look up to. Or maybe these are some of the people that he has seen in combat and understood that they could hurt him. But I'm leaning to that maybe he has been in some sort of scuffle with some of these individuals and that they have actually hurt him, because Odin is in this silhouette as well as Shanks. My first speculative opinion on what could have changed Kaido is someone defeated him in an embarrassing way. Someone humbled him. Maybe when he was young and he thought that he could change the world, someone came along that had more motivation, more ambition, and put him in his place. Now, who did this? Of course, it could have been anyone of that silhouette. It could have been someone that we didn't see in the silhouette. However, I do believe that it was a loss that was detrimental to both Kaido's physical, but mostly his mental health. Because after he started to change, it went from just, him being happy-go-lucky, drinking, having fun, to him drinking and crying. And it seems to me that sometimes he is a miserable person, and went from trying to change the world to getting involved in the underground and being involved in these smile fruits, being involved in experimentation when he was experimented on himself, having a hatred towards humans. That's a big 180. Him and King have the same mindset on human beings. They think that their race is above them. And I believe this is because those same human beings cattle prodded them, poked them, tried to alter their DNA, tried to experiment on them, made them feel like animals. And that made them resent human beings. That made them feel like if they have to experiment on us, that clearly we're the superior race, that they're beneath us. There was a change in Kaido. And I know it's really easy to think that maybe one of these defeats did it, but I have a better solution. This is what I honestly feel like changed him. I believe the world around him changed Kaido's opinion. I believe that it wasn't that Kaido failed by losing to someone. I believe he failed to change the world. That no matter how much he tried to be an optimist, that no matter how much he tried to change the people around him, it did not work. People are still bad people. People still experimented on him and other people. People like the world government still try to erase history, just like they did when they erased King's people. They still pushed the fishmen underground. They still treated other races that aren't the human race like bad people, like people that are beneath them, which led to Kaido projecting that same energy back, to think that he is above them and that he doesn't need to change the world to benefit them or anyone else, but he needs to control it with an iron fist. That he needs to create a war in which he can conquer, because he feels like their races are above human beings, that they're the ones that need to be in control. That's what shifted. How he saw the world shifted his views on people. He doesn't want to change the world. He wants to control the world and make it better within his mode of how he sees things. This is why he wants to break people's wills. He wants to be on top of people, control people. This changed him from being an optimist that wanted to change the world into a dictator, into someone that wanted to conquer the world. Which leads me to my last point. What is his motivation now? Besides controlling the world, Kaido is looking for Joy Boy. Is he looking for Joy Boy because he's interested in Joy Boy? No, he's looking for Joy Boy for selfish reasons. It's just like King said, continue to be the strongest and I'll make you king of the pirates. He wants to find Joy Boy to defeat him. Because in his mind, if he can't be Joy Boy, he can defeat Joy Boy. He can be better than Joy Boy. Him being stronger than Joy Boy will make him feel superior once again. And it goes into this complex of being better than those around him. Those that are human, that is. Kaido, the king of the beast, wasn't always an inherently bad person. And I don't think he's inherently bad now. He's still a redeemable character in my eyes. However, he's done a ton of heinous things in his conquest of taking over the world and shaping the world how he sees fit, because he is better than human beings. They are beneath him. Just like he said to his daughter Yamato when we find out that him and Yamato are Onis. Kaido is laughing with Luffy right now. And it goes into that statement that he said before when they were fighting. The more you smile, the more, and then it gets cut off. They're laughing together. The more you smile, the more maybe you tap into that Joy Boy, or maybe you get closer to becoming Joy Boy. The word joy's in it for a reason. Kaido wants to defeat Joy Boy, and I think that he thinks in his mind that he found him, and he thinks he found him within Monkey D. Luffy. It's so funny how the community believes that the God Valley incident may be what changed Kaido. But I don't believe this made Kaido a bad person. I don't believe there was any betrayal there. I don't believe that anything bad happened to anyone that made Kaido look at pirates different, or not trust pirates, or to say that pirate alliances won't work, or to say that pirates will use you and then turn their back on you. I don't believe that nothing at God Valley changed Kaido in that way. I believe Xebec motivated Kaido. I believe that what happened at God Valley is what made him want to be Joy Boy. The betrayal came later. Pirates using him and turning their backs on him came later. Him not being able to change the world and failing came later. Kaido, the King of the Beast, is truly a character with more than one dimension. He's a very overrated character when it comes to writing, but I believe that if Kaido gets a backstory from Oda, that it may be one of the greatest ones that we have ever gotten in One Piece. These are just my thoughts on Kaido, his backstory, and who he is as a person, and I hope you all enjoy. As always, I hope you all are staying safe and healthy during these trying times. This has been Synsei Inc., and I will see you all in the next video.